This episode is brought to you by the outstanding shows of the You Run Podcast Network. From TV to true crime and everything in between, the network is your home of entertainment. So don't delay. Join in with the fun at yourunpodcast.com today.
We kick off every episode with a quote relating to the case. Thank God neither of these disgusting, vile human beings said anything of note, because I don't want to quote anything these two have got to say ever.
No, there's nothing. We have nothing die in hell. Actually, one did, but
yeah. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Heather's raging. Old news, she screams. The new word cases are all that she dreams. We dive into cases both weird and grim, from Zodiac ciphers to Tiger King's whim. We're You Run Podcast, the oddball pair. We're pretty damn good to be fair. You Run Podcast, do true crime. Heather's ranting, skirts in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case. We're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a weekend and nod. You Run Podcast, approved by God. Probably not.
Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast True Crime. My name is Scott.
And I'm Heather.
And we're going to kick this off with, this is a public service announcement. This is possibly the most disgusting case we will ever cover, ever.
I think so. I agree with you. You know, I said that before we got started. I was like, I love true crime and it fascinates me. But I'm like, even me this time is like, this is nasty.
It's bad. We are a true crime podcast. We talk all about the cases. We give you all of the facts, which in this case is horrific from start to finish. We also share our opinions. And I get a feeling this is going to be a very heavily opinionated episode as we discuss these two horrible individuals.
I don't even call them people. Like, they're just fucking animals. Like,
yeah.
You can't call them a human, right? There's no way.
No, I don't think you can. You can get in touch with the show as well. We are interactive. So all you need to do is drop us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com, or record us a voicemail. You could do that on X and Instagram by going to the DM feature, push and hold the microphone button and we'll get your message. Also now, you can contact us through Spotify. You can leave a comment on the episodes. We're recording way ahead. Way ahead. Yeah. So we're recording this in November, and I don't know when in 2025 you're hearing this, but this was recorded months ago. We've just released the Menendez case when we're recording this. We have a comment on that episode that I wanted to share. So this comment came from Dave, and he put, I remember this at the time. If there was physical abuse and the mum knew, they got what they deserve, but it's still horrific murder. And I'd say release them on time served.
Okay, this is Dave who? Which is it just a random Dave or do we know Dave?
I know who this Dave is. This is Dave B Movies. He's a movie reviewer on TikTok.
He always calls into the horror movie show, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he Scottish or Irish, or is that not the right one?
No, not the right one.
Not the right one.
Dave's English from the south coast of England, not a million miles from where I am.
Yeah, wrong one. But I swear there was somebody on there, and I was like, "What the fuck?" They sound so weird. It wasn't Barry either, because I know he's not English. Okay. Anyways, let's not talk about that. Heather's getting sidetracked. Okay, so that comment. I don't want to start any fights with anybody. I don't know. Honestly, Dave, we appreciate the comment, but saying something like that, I do understand. So it's a very split thing, right? You feel some sort of empathy towards them because you think if they were molested, if they were abused, that happened and they're taking revenge. I get that. Okay. I do. But it's becoming this trendy thing where all these new younger people are like, release that. Y'all weren't even alive when this happened.
Dave was. Dave's about the same age as us. Dave
No,
was
not
definitely
Dave.
alive.
All these people that if
Oh,
you've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
these reels on TikTok, it's all these like 20-year-olds that are like, oh, and I'm thinking, but you don't really even know the case. Like, we actually still don't know to this day for 100% sure what happened to them. Like,
No.
I mean, even if they got abused, I still don't think their mom should have got fucking shotgunned down 10 times.
Yeah, and not reload. I don't know. They've served a long time in prison.
It's hard to.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, they should just leave them there. I'm not one for releasing people. I felt the same when they released Gypsy Rose. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, she is the most guilty person in the world.
Look, I feel like her case is a little different. I'm only going to disagree with you on that slightly because we do know the shit she went through.
Yeah,
we know for sure her mom was abusing her in a health way, not sexually, but that doesn't make it any worse or better. And so she ain't no fucking drama now. You're getting pregnant by everybody, and then the one guy is like fucking pining over her, and I'm like, have you seen her? Like, y'all need to calm the fuck down. But anyway, but no, to say Dave, we appreciate you're entitled to your opinion. I'm just not going to say 100% that I agree with that. I think more goes into it than just saying give them time served. They've been in jail for a long time, and if you do let them out, will they get out? There is a possibility that they're going to get out. There really is. This is the thing. You just have to hope to God or whoever, right?
They could be out now.
And maybe they don't. Maybe, hey, Scott, they might not. You may never hear anything else from them.
No, I mean, the thing is, we're recording so far in advance. By the time this comes out, they might be
out.
They might be out.
I just don't know. It's such a tricky subject, and it's going to go too far into for us to discuss, and we have another episode to cover. So again, thank you for the comment. I'm torn. I'm like Natalie Imbruglia. I'm torn. Like, I don't know what to say ever.
This is why I'm torn.
Exactly.
Right. Let's get into this case. So today we are reaping the rewards of the British-only crime poll, which put the worst criminals in the UK history against each other. And unbelievably, the case that I didn't want to win won.
Yeah. Yep.
There is something very strange as well, because on our last episode, that when we're recording this episode isn't even out yet. So when we're recording this, that episode hasn't dropped. Heather said, wouldn't it be really good if we covered this case? It'd be a really interesting one to do. And she willed it into the universe. And it just happened.
I didn't mean to. Now I wish I wasn't psychic.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't like clairvoyant or whatever, but I did. And now we're having to discuss it for you guys, and it's yuck.
It is. So on the bombshell that Heather is actually a witch, there's no synopsis that does this case justice. It's the crimes of Fred and Rose West.
Comes from Gloucester. Behind me, 25 Cromwell Street, the home of Frederick and Rosemary West. It was here that 9 bodies were found, dismembered and buried. Over the last 30 days, some of the most shocking evidence ever to be heard in a British court has detailed how those and other murders were carried out.
The arrest of Fred West triggered one of the biggest police investigations in modern times. West was detained in late February last year with his wife by police investigating the disappearance of their 16-year-old daughter Heather, who was last seen alive in 1987. Shortly afterwards, police using digging equipment found Heather's remains in the back garden of number 25 Cromwell Street, Gloucester, an address that was to become known as the House of Horror. Within days, the remains of 2 more bodies had been found in the garden. More grim discoveries followed. Other remains were discovered hidden in the cellar and bathroom areas. In all, 9 sets were found at the address. The digging then switched to other locations, including fields near the village of Muchmarkle. The remains of 3 more bodies were found, including those of Catherine Costello, Fred West's first wife.
Frederick West, the Gloucester builder whose home concealed 9 corpses, has been found dead, hanging in his prison cell at Winson Green Jail in Birmingham. He'd been in custody for nearly a year, accused of a total of 12 murders, and committal proceedings were due to start next month. His wife, who's charged with 9 murders, was told of his death this afternoon.
Rosemary West made her all-too-familiar journey to court again this morning. But today, for the first time, she was to speak directly to the jury. Shown photographs of 5 of the women she's accused of killing, Mrs. West said she'd never seen them before. First, though, her counsel, Richard Ferguson QC, had some blunt words for the jury, now down to 11 people after one juror was discharged for reasons not explained in court.
Rosemary West is tonight starting a prison sentence that will almost certainly last for the rest of her life. The jury at Winchester Crown Court found her guilty on 7 more counts of murder today, to add to the 3 guilty verdicts yesterday. Her husband, Fred West, escaped justice by hanging himself in his prison cell on New Year's Day. The 10 women and girls who were sexually tortured before they were killed may not have been the West's only victims. Tonight, police appealed for information about 9 more young women who disappeared after visiting their home in Cromwell Street, Gloucester.
Yeah.
I look like my face. Look at it.
Mm.
Do you know what he looks like? You know what Fred West? I just hit my microphone. Sorry, guys. You know what Fred West looks like? If you had a picture of beans and toast as a human, that's how fucking gross he is to me. That is like, I know you guys love your beans on toast. Let me tell you something. Yuck city for me, but like also think about a picture like if it was human. He is so fucking ugly, and I don't care. I know that this show ain't about talking shit about people's looks, but like, Jesus, take the wheel, take the beans.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, when I started putting this case together and how we'd talk about it, in my head, because I remember all these bodies being found. This happened when I was a teenager, so I remember this fairly well. And I was like, oh, well, we'll just talk about Fred and Rose together. And then when I started looking into Fred, I was like, no, we can't do that. We need to talk about Fred. Then we need to talk about Rose. Then we need to talk about them together because they both have these horrific pasts where they've done horrific things before they even got anywhere near each other.
Together. Mm-hmm,
yeah. We'll kick off with Fred. So, where do I start? Fred didn't have a good childhood. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm going to say that now. But he did come from a very poor background. He was involved in petty theft at a young age. He was described by his classmates as scruffy and a bit thick, which if you've ever heard any of his interviews, he is thick as 2 short planks. He's so stupid. He was regularly in trouble with police and teachers for various behavioural issues and for stealing. Despite not being the brightest, he was very good with woodwork and art. He's actually illiterate or nearly illiterate as an adult. So he really didn't grasp school. He left at 15 and he started working on a building site. He had a good work ethic, which was apparently instilled in him by his father. So when they were growing up, the dad would make him and his sisters like work local farmland and harvest crops, and like they actually worked from very young. We're talking like 8, 9 years old. He'd have them out working fields. So there was a good work ethic there. Unfortunately, this is not the only thing his father instilled in him as normal. Fred believed that incest was okay and it was the norm, as his father would often rape his sisters. Fred was also sexually abused by his mother and had committed sexual acts on animals during his childhood.
Okay, we already have to take a pause. I need a second. The baby's kicking me as we're talking, which is kind of funny. She's probably like, Jesus Christ, what are y'all talking about? That was so much. That was so much. That was like a fucking loaded potato that you just spilled out. Because it's like, not only was he having incestual relationships with his sister, and then his father was doing it to his sister, but then the mother was doing it to Fred.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a family, fucked up family tree.
Yeah, and then Fred's doing it to the cat and the dog.
Animal stuff.
Yeah.
Look, I know there are some people in this world that do things like that to animals. Okay. I would say I don't know what you're doing with a cat. I know. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the details of it. It's just that, like, that young of a child, I
Yeah.
I don't even know what you call him, Scott. I don't. You know how I'm always like bringing the big words, and I'm like, yeah, but he was fucking depraved. Like, this dude needed to be like, put him away.
Yeah. This is before he's like he's
No,
not
I
even
know.
a proper adolescent yet. He's still a kid.
No, he's just a child preteen.
Yeah, like when he became a teenager, it got worse. So he would frequent a
Mhm.
local social club where he would aggressively pursue women. He saw them as nothing more than something to gratify his needs, and he would grope and he would try and force
Gross.
himself on them at every opportunity he got. At 17, Fred had a motorcycle accident, which left him with a fractured skull and several broken bones, including a leg and an
Mhm.
arm. It was so bad that he walked with braces for months because he was in such a bad way. After
Mhm.
the accident, he developed a fear for hospitals and also started having uncontrollable bouts of rage, which, given his mental state anyway, is not a good thing to add to what he already had. Um, 2 years later, he got another severe head injury, and this made me smile. And I know that's wrong, but it did.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
He, in the social club, tried to grope a girl on the rear fire escape. When she said
Mhm.
no, he to force himself on her, to which she swiftly punched him in the face, sending him over the railing 2 floors down to the floor,
Bye,
where
bitch.
where he went splat. That's like
He has the prerequisites of what we would say a serial killer has, right?
yeah,
Bad childhood. Okay, that's not even bad. I don't know what kind of fucking sick, disgusting child. That's not even a bad childhood. There's no words for that. But then you have head injuries, things like that, that they have believed to have could cause the brain to be messed up. Richard Ramirez, I believe, he was hit severely. He fell off of a swing set or something happened. I think it was an uncle, someone. Anyway, long story short, he also had a severe head injury. Actually, a handful of them have.
yeah.
Um, to cause this disruption in their nervous system, in their brain. But, like, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this motherfucker was already fucked up before. Like, this was fucking pure evil. Like,
Yeah.
I know, again, he was born. This was like, I don't know, like, why he was created. It was just, it's insane. But, like, he was literally just like Satan born on earth.
Yeah, he really was, and
Yeah.
I just looking at my notes, and it like every single like paragraph of
Yeah.
my notes, it just
I
gets
know.
worse. It's like it's bad now, but like we've not even roughly like we've not even disturbed the earth, let alone scratched the surface on what this
No, we're
guy
just
is.
talking about like the stuff he did as a child, not any of even the stuff like
Yeah,
it's yeah, like not even his actual end quotes or whatever, okay, crimes that he was convicted of.
yeah. In June 1961, Fred's 13-year-old sister confided in her mum that Fred had been raping her for 6 months, and she was
Mhm.
pregnant. Now, Fred was
Ugh.
arrested for this, and he confessed to abusing lots of young girls for years. He was so confused why he was arrested, and he's quoted as saying to police, "Doesn't everyone do this?"
No, they don't.
No,
God damn it. Like,
yeah,
I'm getting pissed off because it's like, what? How can these two fucking people have a child and then they raise the child to be even more sadistic and twisted than they are? And you think
yeah,
it's okay to fuck your sister or fuck your family? Like, I'm sorry. Take all the more morality, religious stuff out of it. The fuck is wrong with people? I'm laughing to not scream, but it's like, I don't think you have to be raised any certain way to know that you don't fuck your sister. You don't have sex with your family members.
Yeah,
Who needs to teach you that, right? You just kind of, it's like most people are not naturally, they're not going to be attracted to their sibling or their mom or their dad. Yes.
No.
Can that happen? Scott, I mean, if there's something biologically going on wrong, mentally going wrong, yes, there are situations where it's like, let's get him some help. But like, he just thought it's like, oh, it's fine. No, it's my sister. Like,
yeah, it's normal. Everyone does this. Dad does it, so I
no,
can
oh
do
yeah,
it.
sure, everybody does.
Oh.
No.
So he was charged, and this went to trial. On the day of her testimony, the sister decided not to take the stand, and the case collapsed and fell apart, and he was
Yeah.
released with no charges. His mother said that she was pleased that he was free, but banned him from ever returning home. I'd like to tell you this is where we stop talking about Fred and we talk about Rose.
No.
But Fred killed multiple times before he met Rose, and what I'm about to describe will be disturbing for many people, me included. This case is up there for how much it fucked with my head. So
Yeah.
in September 1962, Fred met up with an old flame, Catherine Costello, who was from Scotland, and she was carrying the baby of an Asian bus driver. By the November, the two had got married, which again is mind-boggling quick. That's 2 months. They moved out of the area to Scotland due to the family's anger about a mixed-race baby. When the baby was born, they claimed that they'd adopted the baby to avoid hate from the local community. Because in the 60s in the UK, like that was not okay.
No, I get it.
Which again, like just reading that was like wild to me. I was like, wow, like that's normal. That's just normal. People fall in love.
It would have been.
They have
It would have
babies.
been normal here. I mean, there was racism. Oh God, the 60s.
Yeah,
Racism was hardcore. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
yeah. In 1964, Fred and Catherine had a second child together called Anne Marie. Their first child was called, her first child was called Charmaine. Now, Fred was an asshole. I don't know why I need to kind of tell you that because you kind of knew it already.
He was
He
sick.
treated the children terribly. So he had a set of bunk beds that he barred off the bottom half of the bunk bed, so it was effectively a cage. And he would keep the children in there, and they were only allowed out when he was at work. The family had a nanny called Isla McNeil, who they met. Who they met through that person. They met 16-year-old Anne McFall. Anne spent a huge amount of time at their flat. Literally from the minute she met them, she pretty much moved in, which again is weird. Like, who lets their 16-year-old daughter just move in with a random family?
I don't know. The 60s were a time.
Yeah.
Right. And also, again, Fred West, I don't know how he's getting all this P word.
No, I genuinely don't.
He's so gross, and then like on the top on top of that, he's having these children, but he like hates the children.
Yeah,
like he doesn't. He like you said, he treats them like animals. So it's like, why are you again 60s? Okay, so we already know like birth control things like that wouldn't have been.
No,
that's taboo, probably.
Yeah.
So that wasn't happening.
Fred had loads of affairs, like a ton of affairs throughout his marriage, and he fathered another child. So in response to this, Catherine had an affair of her own with a man called John McLennan. Fred caught them in the act, and his response to that was he punched Catherine in the face, which then led to John beating him up quite badly. And this is a cycle that repeated. So Catherine would arrive at John's covered in bruises. John would go round to Fred's, kick the shit out of Fred, and then go back. There's also several times where John saw Fred strike the children, and John again beat the shit out of Fred. I quite like John.
It's just it's too bad that he didn't just beat his ass to death, and then none of this would be happening, and our recording would be over.
Exactly. This would be the end of the episode.
Quick episode. Bye, you guys. No, but I never understand all these affair things. like when
No.
we talk about this, doesn't happen real often with true crime. It does in true crime in general. Yes, it does. But like for most of the serial killer stuff, it doesn't happen, right? They're not like having affairs. And it's always these ugly ones. He is so ugly. He's ugly with an R in it. Like I had to add an extra letter because this is my thing. Why are anybody throwing their cat at him? I'm trying to figure out like what is going on that you're just you're like, oh, he had all these multiple affairs, and I'm just like, quit.
Who? Who's doing that?
I mean, I've seen Rose West. We know she ain't a looker either.
No.
But anyways,
Yeah. So in November 1965, Fred accidentally ran over a child, a small boy in Glasgow, and he killed them. He was cleared of any wrongdoing, but at the time, Fred was the local ice cream man, and he thought that maybe killing a small child in his ice cream truck wasn't the best for business. So he moved out of the area because he was worried about backlash.
now that you say that, my God. You've
Yeah.
seen the movie Ice Cream Man, the Ice
Yeah.
Cream Man with oh my God, Ron Howard's Clint Howard. Oh my
Yep.
God, I met Clint Howard. He's so nice, but like literally, Fred West is like the British version of him.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want Clint Howard to listen to this. I mean, he probably never will in his life, but he's so nice and he's so nice.
I'm releasing this soundbite and tagging Clint Howard.
Oh my God, don't. I love Clint Howard. I'm just saying. Oh my God, no, don't you dare. Because
No,
this is like the
no.
worst person to compare him to. But you made that reference, and now I can just think about the movie, and I'm like, he was giving his sticky treats out. And
Yeah.
okay, first of all, anyways, Fred ran over that kid, I think, on purpose. I just have this feeling, hey, it wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
Why
I
would he
do as well.
accidentally run over the little boy?
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't buy that it was an accident.
Mm-mm.
Sadly, it was also around this time that he started to sexually abuse Charmaine. And he tried to force Catherine to turn to prostitution to subsidize his low income. Now, Catherine wanted out of this with the other
Good.
girls, and John devised a plan for them to escape, which kind of worked. So Catherine and Isla left with John, but Anne decided she wanted to stay, and the kids didn't go either, which blew my mind. Like, you don't leave your kids in that situation ever.
Again, I'm telling you, it was a morality of the 60s. Also, it's in a different country. Okay. People have different, like,
It's not. It's in
cultural
my
beliefs and
country.
stuff.
No,
No, I know
no.
it's in your country, but
Our
like that
cultural
doesn't
beliefs
mean
are the
that.
same. Like, no,
No,
it's just wrong.
That's not what I mean. We're going to
It's
argue
wrong.
on here. That's not what I mean. I mean, like in the way that they were raised. You weren't
Yeah.
raised in the 60s.
No.
It's the same shit over here, Scott. It would be the same thing. There are cases in the United States where the mom will leave her children with the abusive person, and you're like, what the fuck? So yeah, I didn't mean it like that, you guys. It's more like it's the time, and I
Yeah.
meant it in the sense of like you do have different cultural things though. There's different ways that they do things. Like just Americans, we do things different. Certain holidays you don't celebrate, et cetera, et cetera. So like who knows how they were brought up and why she would do something like that. I would never leave my kids now. I don't
No.
care who. No, I'm not going to leave them with
With the
anyone. I
abusive
don't even
person.
like leaving them. Like I don't even want to do anything now with people I know.
Yeah, like, and you definitely don't leave
So-
them with someone abusive. She
No.
justified this by saying that she visited regularly, but she didn't like the fact that Anne had stayed there and taken on almost like the mum role, and they
That's
kind of fell
gross.
out
Yeah.
over that. Let's talk about Anne. So in July of 1967, Anne disappeared. At the time, she was 8 months pregnant with Fred's baby. Now, she was never
Damn, man.
officially, she was never officially reported missing. And
No, of course
everyone
not.
assumed that she'd just kind of gone, yeah, do you know what? Fuck you, Fred, and left.
And she left. Yeah.
Yeah. Her dismembered remains were discovered in June 1994. Her limbs had been carefully disarticulated and many bones were missing, including the remains of the unborn child. It is assumed that Fred cut the baby from her womb.
But then you're like, okay, think about this, people. If you know your basic biology, a baby at 8 months old can survive. It can survive.
Yeah.
So we're like, where's the baby? Did the baby die?
I think
probably. I mean, probably. But at the same time, you're like, they didn't find the baby though. They didn't find the baby. And at 8 months, I'm telling you, like if I don't want to have this baby at 8 months. I want to cook her all the way. But I'm just saying at 8 months, even without very little medical intervention, the baby can survive.
Oh, 100%.
So people have cut babies from wombs. Okay. Crazy bitches have done that. And the baby has survived.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but it makes you think like, what the fuck did you do with the baby?
Yeah, and
sorry, it's just I can't like understand how it's like, oh, well, they found the dismembered body, but then like,
yeah, and that scares me because I know how Fred is. Like that scares me. What happened there? Because I don't think that baby, if it did survive, I think
the baby didn't survive. If we're being realistic, I think I was just trying to be a tad optimistic.
No, but
I think like, did
he
keep it and it survived? I don't know.
No, I think even if the baby was alive when he cut the baby out, I'm pretty sure he killed the baby. Which is
the baby died shortly after. Well, and also you'd have to think about the fact that would have really possibly gotten him caught.
Yeah.
To take if you had a baby and you're like, you have to take it to the hospital, right? Or something, because like the baby needs medical intervention at that time. So like we know that he did something sinister with the child. It just makes me sad because I that is a level of, I don't know how somebody can do that to a person.
I don't. I've had enough of talking about Fred. Should we talk about Rose?
Yeah. Fuck Fred. Fuck her too.
Maybe Rose will be slightly better. Probably not.
No, she's not. She's
no.
Okay.
Rose did not have a great childhood either. Again, like Fred, she was from a poor background and she was sexually abused by her father. Rose was overtly sexual by the time she hit her teens. She would walk around the house naked in an attempt to entice her younger brother, who was 7, into touching and basically having sex with her. This kid is
I'm not
7.
understanding. Are these two people if there's such a thing as fate that brings people together, then I guess how old was she when she was doing this? If her brother was 7, was she like
13.
Young teens?
13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Most 13-year-old, especially girls, you know better. Like my 13-year-old daughter, she wasn't gonna be walking around no house fucking naked.
No.
I tore her ass up, and I'm not a spanking, like I don't hit my children. That's not how I discipline, but I tell you, I'd slap the shit out of her. That's my thing. It's like, he's 7. What? Yeah. He barely has a private parts. Like, what is, oh God.
Yeah.
I want to strangle her physically myself.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I can't.
Let's make it worse. She'd also sneak into his room and sexually assault him.
So let's damage the little brother and cause him to have problems because you're so sexually depraved. I don't like, what do you even know at 13 at having sex? Like none of your parts work barely either. I don't understand.
No, it's mind-boggling.
Just so that right there is so fucking sad because her parents were not going to help her. The parents were not going to help Fred either. His parents did not help him. In fact, they encouraged the disgusting behavior. And it seems like that's exactly what her parents, like they were molesting her or sexually assaulting her. She was doing it to her brother, which makes sense because that will happen in a cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
Y'all, I'm going to doo-doo my pants. Like I had to cross my legs and sit Indian style or however you call it, because I'm over here like, I just don't understand why. I just like sexually. You're not even barely a girl at 13. But anyways, let's continue. It's just so gross because I have children and it's nasty to think that.
Yeah, like my youngest son is that age now, and that just like I would kill somebody for that without a
Exactly.
hesitation.
Even if it wasn't it doesn't matter about it. It does matter that it's a sibling. That makes it
Yeah,
woo.
worse.
But if a 13-year-old girl tried to hurt your son in that way, yeah, she's getting punched in the fucking throat and sent
Oh,
to jail. It's disgusting though, because it just doesn't make. I don't understand. Anyways, yeah, we're not going to be able to understand it.
um, there's not much else to say about Rose's childhood
Ugh,
because Rose was still a child when she met Fred West. She met Fred when
yeah,
she was 15. Do you know what? Honestly, this case is vile. I'm kind of done with it for a minute. Can we have a break?
we can take a break.
Let's do that.
When you finish this episode, why not head over to yourunpodcast.com and check out some other shows? For some additional horror content, Podcast in the Woods is a great destination. Hosted by Gabby and Boomer, this horror movie review show boasts regular guests and honest opinions. Highly entertaining and at times hilariously funny, Podcast in the Woods is top-tier horror content. Or why not check in for some super nostalgic moments with Pop Culture Reflections podcast? This show is hosted by Justin and covers everything that has influenced pop culture in every decade. Films, music, TV shows, and professional wrestling all make regular appearances along with fabulous guests. This show is a must-listen. These and many other incredible shows all available at yourunpodcast.com. Your home of awesome entertainment.
So there you have it. The home of awesome entertainment. You run podcast.
I like it. She's fancy. You changed that. That's different.
Yeah, that is our
You be changing
resident.
shit up. You be
Yeah,
changing
our,
it up.
our resident AI Gladys, and she's had a bit of a personality update. She's got a little bit of something to her now, so she's getting better.
She sounds less AI, let's put it that way, right? It's more of an authentic sort of like an ad versus it sounding too AI-ish.
Yeah.
Which I know the world is going to all this AI shit anyways. I'm still behind because I don't know anything about it really.
I'm working a lot with Gladys at the moment. If you want on YouTube, there are loads of reviews where Gladys has reviewed horror movies, which
Okay.
is highly
God.
entertaining. But yeah, check out the other members of the You Run Podcast Network. There's literally something for everyone there. And by the time this episode airs, there's going to be a lot more shows in the network. The network is about to expand massively as of January.
Awesome.
So there's going to be loads of shows for you to go and do.
Yes.
Also, while you're there, you can check out our merch shop and you get a t-shirt with Heather's face on it. You could also get lots of other selections of stuff like this. There's loads of stuff.
I still want the yellow one. I'm waiting on it.
Hey, Christmas is coming. Well, Christmas is gone when they're hearing. Christmas is coming.
Christmas is, well, we're recording this, but so I'll just be like, future Scott, give me that yellow shirt.
Let's talk about Fred and Rose West together, the bit that I've been dreading.
Can't wait.
Rose met Fred sat at a bus stop and she repeatedly told him she was not interested. She was 15, he was 27 as he tried to invite her on a date. He would aggressively pursue her for several months. He would meet her at the bus stop each day where she caught the bus and try his luck. He then found out that through talking to her that she worked at a local bakery, and he paid a stranger to take a gift in for her. We don't know exactly what that gift is. People think it was a bunch of flowers. And the man said, "This is from the man outside." Fred then entered and asked again for a date. Rose was flattered by how persistent he was. So Rose said yes. They began a relationship, and she became a frequent visitor to the caravan park where he lived with the two children. Within weeks of meeting Fred, she'd quit her job and she'd become his full-time nanny. Now, this was done on the agreement that he would give her enough money each week that she could give her parents some money so they didn't know that she'd left the bakery. Now, I want to raise something here. Like, my oldest kids work. I know where they work. Like, if they weren't going to work like the normal sort of hours I would.
you would
It's,
know.
yeah, like how could you not know? Like even
I
if you
mean,
like in a bakery, like that's in their local town. Surely, like the mum goes into town. When she goes into town, does she not like pop her head in and see her daughter at work? Go, hi, how are you? Can I have a
mm,
loaf of bread? Who are these people?
I don't know. And then the hours, you would have to think about the hours. Like a bakery isn't typically open very like all day long, right? It's like early in the morning and then they're open until like afternoon. They're not going to be open until nighttime, I would say. Most of the
No,
time not. Because it's not a supermarket bakery. This is a little independently little mom and pop bakery. So
yeah, yeah. It's
I don't
like
think her parents cared, honestly. I mean, like, apparently they didn't care
well,
enough.
you say that, but there is a bit here
Mm,
that shows there's some kind of I don't know if it's caring, but we'll get to it. So Rose took Fred home to meet her parents.
gross.
As a dad, I'm going to say now, if my 15-year-old daughter brought a 27-year-old man in and introduced him as her boyfriend slash lover, I would be going to prison.
He's turning into beans and toast,
I,
bitch.
I
Like,
I would
literally,
be
you're
in
going to smash his face in because
I,
that is like literally, it's illegal. Because what's the age
yeah,
of consent in the UK?
16, which is way too
Is it?
young.
Damn. Okay. It's 18 here. Well, okay. Different states. I believe there are still some US states that it is 16, but at 16, at 18, you don't know shit. But it's 18 here. So I'm like, 16.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. But yeah, like at 50, honestly, I would be in such a bad way. Her parents didn't take this very well. So they forbid Rose from seeing Fred. And
hmm.
when they failed, because she kept seeing him, they put her in a home for troubled teens where she
Yeah.
remained.
Okay.
She was 16. Um,
For 1 year until her age of consent came up.
exactly.
Okay.
She moved home for a while she waited for Fred to come out of prison. So Fred had been sent to prison for unpaid fines for 30 days.
Okay.
Once he was out, she moved into the flat with him that he
Yeah.
rented. Her dad had one more attempt to get her out of this
Mm,
situation. So he had a friend who was a police surgeon and he got the surgeon to examine her. And it showed that she was pregnant. And that took place before she was 16. So, in response to that, she
mhm,
was placed back in care. And it went to court. And long and short of it, the judge made a deal with her that he would basically release her from the care facility that she was in on the condition
mhm.
that she had a termination and she returned home, which she agreed to, which is wild
Okay.
that is something a judge would that something that would come out of a judge's mouth that is just mind bending. Like how can any judge go right? If you get a termination and you go back and live with mum and dad, I'll let you out. That's crazy.
You brought up earlier saying that, well, maybe they cared a little bit, but I think it had more to do with the dad's like control stuff because he was sexually assaulting her as a
Yeah,
child. And so really if you think about it, it was just the fact that he was like, no, I like it was just a control thing. Like I don't he doesn't like he don't care about her meeting another man. Maybe it was some weird sexual, like, oh, she's gonna have sex with this man and like it'll be tainted. I know that sounds
yeah,
weird, but if you think about it, sometimes victims and their abusers will like not want their victim to be tainted, so to speak. And so if they
yeah,
become sexually active, they may punish them, etc. It's happened in things before, in cases before. So that's kind of my thinking is like, no, they didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit. That he was just
yeah,
more like, well, now he can't molest his daughter anymore. Go
yeah.
molest your wife, you fucking credent. Like, what is wrong with you?
Like every single person involved in this from start to finish is like,
That
where
this
did you
whole
come
thing
from?
is this whole fucking case is they found these people. I don't even have a word for them. It's like I don't even understand how you can even think and why you even want to have sex with a child. Like, we're
No,
not going to get into that, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
yeah,
Something's not right with you.
I agree. But she
No.
agreed to this deal. Shocker, she didn't do either of the things she said she was going to do. She didn't move back to
Of
her mum and
course.
dad's, and she didn't have a termination. She moved back in with Fred and the children. In 1970, Rose gave birth to Heather. And 2 months later, Fred went back to prison for stealing tyres, where he'd remain until June of 1971. During this time, Rose looked after all 3 children. She was only 17. Anne Marie says that Rose was both physically and emotionally abusive to her and Charmaine. Anne Marie was submissive in these situations and would just bend to Rose's will. And if she shouted at her and told her to do anything, she'd go, yeah, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Charmaine, though, was not submissive. She would not bow to Rose at all. And she
No.
would cause
No.
Rose to go into fits of rage.
Mhm.
She refused to show emotion, so Rose was determined to make her cry or scream or whatever. And Charmaine was like, nah, you're not getting nothing from me. Sadly, it was Charmaine's stubborn nature that led to her death in June of 1971.
Yeah, because
So,
they were looking for anyone that would be submissive to them, which is part of their mental issues is the submissiveness and why Fred went after younger people, younger female counterparts, because it was a control. Like he was older, obviously 12, 13 years older than Rose. So it makes
yeah,
sense that she was fucked up child. I hate to say it like that, but that's what it is. And so he took a fucked up child and he groomed her to be a
more fucked up.
horrendous woman. Like she
Yeah,
just, it became even more disgusting than could she have gotten help when she was younger for that sexual deviance? Maybe so. But at that time frame and with the parents she had, look, Scott, they were on a road that had, it was going to nowhere. They were both, this was it for them. They were never going to be any better.
no, they weren't. Rose murdered Charmaine while Fred was still in prison and stowed her body in the coal cellar. When Fred was released, he buried her naked body by the back door of the flat. There are no exact details of what actually killed Charmaine or what happened. And to be honest,
Yeah.
I'm kind of thankful that that's not available. Charmaine was 8
No.
when she was killed by
But
Rose.
it's sad. Yeah, but exactly. But she's just a baby. She's just a child.
Yeah.
And
The worst bit of this is when Fred and Rose were asked by their neighbours, like, "Oh, where's Charmaine?" They said she'd
yeah.
gone back to live with her mum.
But the thing, I know, I remember that. But my questioning in that is no one else like. How do you just accept that answer? An 8-year-old child, what does she do? Fucking fly a jet over there? Like it doesn't make any sense. Also, I guess the time frame, the 60s, and also were people just not asking questions?
Yeah, the whole
It
thing.
doesn't make any sense that there was nothing, there was no poking and prodding.
No, there
Right?
was
So if
none
you
at
killed
all.
someone, they killed this little girl, and it was just sort of like, oh, she left. And everybody's like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, sure, she did.
Yeah, it's it gets worse. Not long
Yeah.
after this, Catherine arrived. She heard Charmaine had moved back with her and went, well, that's not right because she's not here. And she
Yeah.
quickly tracked down their address. She had in her mind that she was going to go and confront Fred and find out what the fuck happened.
Mhm.
She was killed by strangulation that believed to have happened in the back of Fred's car. When her
Mhm.
body was discovered, a short length of metal tube was discovered in her pelvic area, leading police to believe she was sexually assaulted before she was murdered.
Yes.
Her body was completely dismembered and placed in separate plastic bags, and her body was found close to a cluster of trees known as yew tree coppice.
Okay, so let me cut you off for just a second. Ask this: where they live, 25 Cromwell. This was all happening at this residence at the time. They lived there for a
Yeah,
long time. Okay, so they did not have neighbors.
yeah, they had neighbours.
Because I just don't know the landscape of where they lived. I've seen pictures, but to be honest, I didn't know how it looked. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah. So
neighborhood,
Yeah, so it's not the nicest area in the world, but they had a house that
No.
joined on to theirs where you'd be able to hear everything that's going
Oh
on.
my God. Okay, that's what I was thinking. That's why I'm bringing this up. I knew that there was a reason why I'm going to go crazy about this, because it's like, if you have a decomposing body and if you have someone that lives that close to you, how do you not fucking smell that? Cut up or not, buried or not.
Yeah,
They would have to have buried this. They'd have to have buried her like 10 feet under the ground or something crazy. And they didn't. It was shallow. It wasn't like very deep. And
no,
so
it wasn't deep, and then it was covered with concrete afterwards. He concreted it over.
okay, so the concrete, I don't know all about this, obviously, but like that may have, with the smell of the body, that. But also, my biggest thing is the screaming, the screams. Do you think an 8-year-old child, or any child, any person at all, okay, adult, child, whoever, is not going to make some noise when they're being attacked?
Yeah, and this goes back. This
I don't
goes back
know.
to the '60s mentality of like kids used to get hit in the '60s when they were naughty.
Well, they did. They got beat, very, very badly beat.
And it probably wasn't uncommon to hear a child screaming, "No, no, 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 no!" Like that was probably quite a normal occurrence. So, like, at what point during that time period, at what point as the neighbour do you go, "Oh, she's been naughty again"? At what point does it turn from that to, "Oh God, maybe they're really hurting her"? And
I wouldn't have
because
made it in the 60s.
no,
I feel like
wouldn't.
with my mentality now, I would have probably been like I forget the word.
Hippie.
There's a word for
I'd
it.
have been a
Yeah,
hippie.
maybe so, right? I would have been more like that for sure. I mean, I wouldn't have been hanging with Manson or any of them. Not in a bad way. But what I mean is that kind of stuff just would have concerned me immediately.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I don't know the landscape of Cromwell Street where this was at or whatever, but you're saying it was a poor neighborhood. So that makes sense as to why it was like, well, they may be getting violently beat. And as long as we hear the child, they're alive. And
yeah. Which
there
again
you go.
is crazy. That was the '60s.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, 100%.
In January 1972, Fred and Rose got married, and they purchased their council house for £7,000, roughly about
Damn.
£119,000 today. So it was cheap. The upstairs was divided into sublet rooms to supplement the household income. And Fred installed a second bathroom and like a little kitchen area up there, so residents didn't need to enter the family area on the ground floor. Shortly after the birth of Rose's second child, Rose began running prostitution out of one of the bedrooms of the house. She advertised in local magazines and would seek West Indian clients on Fred's request. On top of this, Rose would engage in casual sex with both male and female lodgers and strangers who she would meet when she was out and about. When engaging with sex with women, Rose would deliberately hurt them by using dildos that were too big and then mock them for being in pain, saying, "Are you not woman enough to take it?"
It's just.
Yeah, it gets worse. The couple would engage in threesomes with the sole purpose of pushing people past their sexual limits, especially when performing bondage. To cater to their fetishes, they amassed a large collection of bondage and restraining devices, magazines and photographs, and later adding videos of bestiality and child pornography.
That it's like, where are you getting? Okay, you're saying adding videos. So they were making these videos because in the 60s, 70s, like they didn't have computers.
No, it was videos.
So this is being done via real life, and you're fucking a dog and chill.
Yeah,
Y'all, hold on, I gotta rub my nose. It's itching. But like, what the fuck? I cannot. Like,
No.
who's filming this? I guess
Yeah.
they were because they're keeping the collection, but it's like,
Yeah, they were, and they were buying them from other people who were also filming it. Like they weren't all video. It's a whole seedy underworld of disgusting that is just.
yeah,
ugh.
yeah. That, I guess it was sort of like the black market or the dark web before the
Yeah.
dark web existed, right? There you
Yeah,
go.
pretty much. The money from the prostitution went on home improvements. Rose controlled the family finances. A red light was fitted above the door in the room she worked, so people would know when not to disturb her. And peepholes were installed in the rooms adjacent, so Fred could sit and watch Rose with her clients. In the late 70s, Rose's father, Bill, he kind of got to a point where he accepted their marriage, and he begrudgingly agreed to open a cafe with Fred. And it was called the Green Lantern, and it went bust in 6 months.
Oh, of course it did.
But that's not the story. The story is Bill is known to have visited the property to take advantage of Rose's prostitution services.
It's just, I don't like, was it only her?
Yeah, it's just her.
So that's not a prostitution. That's not like a business. It's just her giving her coochie away. Or well, for money, but yeah, charging. That's her dad. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, to her own dad. Like,
okay, I'm gonna make a bad joke, but I bet he got a family discount. You have to laugh, Scott. You have to laugh so we don't go insane, because this is so gnarly on a different level. Not like cool waves, bro. This is fucking insane. That this woman, her father.
Yeah.
How do you look at?
Like,
I can't even understand
I think
it.
Every single person who's listening to this now, like, picture your father. Like, it's just never, like, that thought never even.
Well, that's the
crossed
thing.
my mind.
It's most people are pretty semi-normal. Okay, we're all a little weird here and there, but we have quirks. That's okay. That's fine. We like weird people. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, we're not sadistic and we're not screwing our family members. It's like, I don't know how you can look at someone in the eye and then you finish doing such a heinous act, and then it's like your dad. I just can't. I guess the mentality of it right there for me is too much. It makes my head want to blow off, because I'm like, I can't morally, soundly, any way, shape, or form. Now, I want to make this clear as well. I'm not trying to make fun of this or anything like that. Yes, I make the jokes. It's how me and Scott podcast, and it's also I have a dark sense of humor sometimes. But I would hope that if anybody's listening to this and anything has happened to you, it's not funny at all. Basically, it's not. It's just hard for me to understand that process of what your mind has to go through. But she was willingly doing it. Yeah, she was not being abused at that point.
No, she's willingly doing it and charging him for it as well, making profit off of it.
It's so bizarre. Like, what is your mom? So, like, the mom.
Yeah.
They never said if the mom knew, or like.
No. I didn't find anything whether the mum knew. And
no, okay. I mean, it doesn't matter if she did or didn't, but at this point, it doesn't matter because everything's so fucked up.
Yeah, it gets more fucked up. By 1983, Rose had given birth to 8 children, at least 3 of these being the children of clients. Fred welcomed them into the family and would explain the skin tone differences to the children and to the neighbors by saying he had a black grandfather.
No, okay. I mean, like, sure, genetics are crazy, right? You guys that know me or follow me. I have a blonde-headed, blue-eyed baby, okay? And like, look at me. And then if you've seen pictures of my husband, we're not. That's not what we look like. I get it, but it's.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. Do you know what? I think it's a good time to call it. There's a lot more to this case, but like I think we call it a day where
I'm not laughing at you. It's just so. This has been more of a bitch fest rant podcast episode, because I am literally, I can't stop moving. I'm having to make sure I don't screw up my audio and slowly adjust my mic, because I can't sit still, because I'm just like, I want to do a cartwheel around the room to be like, What is going on?
And honestly,
and I knew this case was going to be bad. I already knew, right?
Yeah,
but when you start actually talking about it, it's just like,
yeah, but where we've stopped, we haven't even got to the worst bits of this case yet. Not even
we
close.
haven't got to the again, I laugh. It's a defense mechanism, guys. It's sort of how I deal with trauma responses. But no, honestly, we haven't, and that's why we have to do a part 2, because this would take forever, because there's so much more, because we haven't even gotten to the other crimes. We haven't gotten to the conviction and everything else that happens after, because it's fucking bonkers.
I think we're about halfway through ish.
I think we do. We can make the second part, or it will be halfway.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Honestly, there's so much that we haven't touched on yet. There's child abuse, there's incest, there's sexual assault, there's everything. I can't handle any more in a single sitting. Like, there's only so much of this shit I can take in one go. Next time, we're going to talk about domestic violence that occurred in the home, the amount of hospital trips that the poor children had to go to hospital for domestic violence, and the amount of times that Child Protective Services failed miserably. We'll also discuss the further victims, how Fred and Rose were caught, what happened to them, and where they all are, and bring this to a close so I never, ever have to talk about it, think about it, worry about it again.
No, it's going to be one that probably sticks with you, because us having to do a 2-parter and still having to discuss it, but like, we'll condense it a little tighter for the second part, because then the second part go a little faster, if you ask me, just because we don't need to talk anymore about the childhood and all the shit they did. Now we know, you guys know, that Fred and Rosemary West were the 2 peas in a fucking twisted pod. That's all I can say, because they are one and the same.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Very, very gross. A huge thank you to everyone who's listened and stomached their way through to the end. I'm going to pass over to Heather, because I'm sure Heather, as I can see, she's really bouncy and exciting. Heather must have a list of PSAs about 18,000 miles long. So I'm going to let Heather do that and then say goodbye for us.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're not wrong, Scott. I would like to, though, reserve one of basically my longer PSA for the second part, you guys, just because I think it's more fitting to go, and we need to listen to the second part to complete the series. But part of my PSA now would be that, we've talked about the abuse, and we've talked about sexual assault, incestual sexual assault. And I think my biggest PSA there is that if someone is doing something like that to you, you guys need to reach out. I'm being 100% serious. You need to reach out, know that there are resources out there to help you, and do not feel like you have to be a victim, because you don't. If you're being hurt in any way, if you have any kind of abuse going on, whether it be verbally, mentally, sexually, please reach out. There are hotlines available. If you're too scared to reach out, please, I'm being super serious when I say this, DM me, DM Scott. Let us know. I mean, we can keep everything anonymous. And I understand that might be going a little too far into it. But the bottom line is that no one deserves to get abused. No one deserves to be hurt like this. And you don't have to be a victim, and you can fight back. So my PSA is that be strong, fight back, take vengeance when necessary. And guys, we hope that you've enjoyed this fucking crazy episode. We love you guys, and make sure you stick around for part 2. But until next time, stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Heather's raging, old news she screams. The newer chases are all that she dreams. We dive into cases both weird and grim, from Zodiac ciphers to Tiger King's whim. Where You Run podcast, the oddball pair. We're pretty damn good, to be fair. You Run podcast, true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a weekend and nod. You Run podcast, approved by God. Probably not. it's time to do this. We're trapped in a world of murder and gore, but hey, at least we've got podcast galore. Toolbox killers are chilling affair, but we're adding our humor to ease up. You run podcast, do true crime. Heather's ranting, Scott's in denial. From Manson's madness to Tupac's case, we're serving up crime with a comical grace. We're digging up dirt with a wink and a nod. You run podcast approved by God. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Scott's like, can we talk about movies? Heather's yelling, no, it's time to do this. We're trapped in a world of murder and gore, but hey, at least we've got podcast galore. Toolbox killers are chilling affair, but we're adding our humor to ease up. You